Hey there, Alex here. This is the new Reno 7 Pro, and yes, it has only been about 5 months since I reviewed its predecessor. But anyway, let's just dive right in and see how much Oppo can improve over this short period of time. First of all, while it doesn't come with earphones anymore, we are still getting a 65-watt charger, USB cable, and a pretty decent looking case in the box, which is always nice to see. But what is even nicer are the design changes to the phone itself. It now has a flatter design, and I think it's actually slimmer than the Reno 6 Pro, which was already a pretty slim phone. It's really well built, has a solid heft to the phone, feels great in the hand, and even the haptic feedback still feels good. I think the rear of the phone is a little busy looking with the different types of finishing around the camera bump area, but I think it is a pretty good looking phone, especially in the starlight black color. There's a Star Trails blue option as well, but I think there is just too much going on with the design there, especially when you include that really eye-catching notification light around the camera bump, but design is subjective after all, and some folks might like it. However, I think that the front of the phone looks great no matter which color option it is, because it's mostly just the screen. It has really small bezels all around, and I really like this flat display. Content looks great since there are no reflections at the edges unlike a curved display. It has nice looking colors, and brightness is good enough for outdoor use as well. This flatter screen also works better for games with buttons near the bottom of the screen, like Mobile Legends for example. The display is still just 90Hz, but it's not a massive difference to me over 120Hz, and it still looks more than smooth enough. However, like the Reno 6 Pro, all of the games I tried still can't seem to run at a higher refresh rate, which is a bummer. But at least most of the apps I use are able to take advantage of it, with the exception of PowerAmp for some reason. The display will also drop down to 60Hz to save battery when there is no touch input for around 4 seconds or when a video is playing. And guess what? We finally have stereo speakers here to go along with this nice looking screen, so it's a huge upgrade to the multimedia experience for me. But before we get too excited, there is still no official IP rating here, which is a bit disappointing. But if you are a bit more careful with your phone, Oppo does provide a 2 years warranty, which maybe balances things out a little. Also, like the Reno 6 Pro, I find the position of the fingerprint sensor a little too low for me, but on the bright side, it is fast and accurate. In terms of specifications, the Reno 7 Pro is using a MediaTek Dimensity 1200MX chipset, which is more or less the same as the Reno 6 Pro, since I think most of the extra customizations they did are mostly AI related and for image processing. Anyway, it's still a solid performer that is probably comparable to the Snapdragon 870. I have no issues with performance or heat in day-to-day use, and as long as you keep to a low graphic settings, it runs even games like Genshin Impact relatively well. Battery life seems to be pretty solid as well, and while I did notice a slightly higher battery drain while playing games compared to the Reno 6 Pro for some reason, I can still get a full day of use out of the phone pretty easily. No wireless charging here, but it does support 65-watt fast charging if you need a quick top-up. The Reno 7 Pro is running ColorOS 12 based on Android 11. Like with recent ColorOS, it's a pretty decent user experience with a ton of customization options and features. I can customize the app icons, accent colors, and even the shape of the quick settings icon. I can quickly launch a function while unlocking the phone, which is useful for safe entry check-ins, control music playback even when the screen is off, and it has one of the best implementations for one-handed mode I've seen. This is on top of the basic stuff of course, like double tap to sleep, taking a long screenshot, gaming mode, and whatnot. There is a new anti-peeping feature for notifications as well, so when the front camera detects that there is someone else looking at your screen, it will hide notifications automatically. Of course, this means that the front camera is active whenever you are using the phone, so you have to be willing to live with that in order to use this feature. Also, I did notice a bit more bloatware on the phone, which is a bit of a bummer, and for a phone released in 2022 to still be running Android 11 is not a good look. Moving on to the camera performance, the Reno 7 Pro comes with 3 rear cameras, but one of them is a 2-megapixel macro camera, so it's more like 2. The main camera is now using a larger Sony IMX766 sensor, and it performs well for the most part. The phone has a crowd-pleasing style of image processing, so most of the time it's just point and shoot and the phone will figure out the rest. Just that it's not the most natural looking, especially when using night mode. Maybe it's to compensate for the lack of OIS, but the processing is just way too heavy. The ultra-wide angle camera looks okay in good lighting, and while night mode does help a little, it's still just okay. Video quality is somewhat decent, but it doesn't have OIS, and if you want electronic stabilization, the only option is the Ultra Steady mode, which only shoots at 1080p, so that's not great. The front camera is probably the highlight of the phone here, with a newer Sony sensor along with a slightly wider lens. As long as there's enough light, performance is really good. Even in high contrast lighting or at night, it's able to capture nice looking shots. Even in very poor lighting, it is still able to do a somewhat decent job. The extra features it offers mostly works pretty well too. The bokeh effect looks decent, and while I'm not an expert when it comes to selfies, I find the beauty effects pretty decent looking too, as long as you don't push it too far. The only minor drawback is probably just the video resolution, which is limited to just 1080p, but other than that, quality is pretty good too, and it has fun effects as well. If you need a telephoto camera, this might not be the best option, but other than that, camera performance is good, especially for the front camera. Anyway, feel free to check out the link in the video description below if you want to see more camera samples from the phone. Overall, the Reno 7 Pro might not seem like a big upgrade at first, but because of the updated design, better camera hardware, and the upgrade to stereo speakers, I think it's one of the more substantial upgrades I've seen to the Reno series in recent years, which is probably why the retail price of the phone also went up a little. Though Oppo does run promotions from time to time, so it's not that bad. I personally think it's still a bit expensive, but that's because I'm clearly not the target audience for this phone, so some of the unique selling points don't appeal to me as much. However, I think that if having a great front-facing camera is more important to you, the Reno 7 Pro could be a good option. It does almost everything well enough, multimedia experience is great, build quality and design are solid, and you get to save a bit of money considering that it is still cheaper compared to other top-of-the-line phones. Thanks for watching this video, and see you guys on the next one.